Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Pyped Podcast, where you come for the sports and stay for the great vibes. I'm your host, Jonah Hall, and today we're talking to a very special guest, a 27-year volunteer at the Masters Golf Tournament, better known to many as the director of the Center for Career Development here at Tech, Russ Coughenour. Everything from what sparked his interest in golf all the way to his favorite golf memories. So be sure to stick around. I promise you do not want to miss this conversation. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Russ, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you,
Great.
Jonah. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. Happy to have you. So with the Masters starting up here tomorrow, actually, with the par 3 contest today, actually, we just figured this is a great time to have you on and talk about golf. But we'll kind of start from the beginning before that. What sparked your interest in golf?
Wow, what sparked my interest in golf? Jonah, I don't know. I think it was watching golf on television. I was a sort of an all-sport fan as a kid growing up, and I can remember watching Arnold Palmer and Ben Hogan and the start of Jack Nicklaus's career. But golf was on in black and white then, and I can remember sitting in the living room of my dad's house and watching the tournaments. And I was a big Arnold Palmer fan, and used to have golf balls in the house, and I would have little putting tournaments, in on the carpet, and I always had Palmer winning those tournaments. But then my grandfather got me a set of clubs. He actually had a 2-hole golf course on his farm. It wasn't much of a golf course. It was just 75 yards one way and 75 yards back. And just started playing whenever I could.
Yeah, and something that any golfer dreams of is Augusta, right? How did you end up working at the Masters?
Yeah, well, my higher education career took me to Augusta, Georgia in 1991, and I was an associate director of career development at Augusta University. Now, at the time, it was Augusta College. And it was, at one time, Augusta State University, which actually was a 2-time NCAA national champion. That's where Patrick Reed went to school. Mm-hmm. And so I was working there, and my boss, my vice president of student affairs, a guy named Fred Barnaby, Dr. Fred Barnaby, he knew I was a huge golfer. We worked in the same building, and we used to talk golf all the time. And he said, by the way, he said, I'm a gallery guard out at the Masters. Do you want me to try to get you on? And I said, let me think about it. Yes.
Absolutely.
And so he called me one day and he said, hey, man, I've got you an opportunity, but you have to commit to the entire week. Practice rounds begin Monday morning, and gallery guards have to be out there the whole time. So that was it. 1992 was my first year, and I was on the 9th hole and started working. And 27 years later, I kind of retired from that opportunity, and that's how I got out there. Was I just knew somebody, and he got me out there.
What were some of your job qualifications, or what did you do on the job?
Yeah, well, we were gallery guards, and what that means is we kept our eye on the gallery at all times, and for the most part, our jobs were to monitor tee shots, monitor shots that went beyond the green and into the gallery, and if it did, we had to as politely as possible move the gallery out of the way. We had to adjust the ropes, sometimes cutting them. We had to move stakes, and then when the player played their shot, we had to put everything back, put the chairs back, and be as gracious as possible doing that. And sometimes, especially with a stray tee ball, there were times when it felt like you were moving half of Augusta, Georgia. I mean, and people don't pay attention. They're you can't yell,
right?
So you have to do it a lot with hand signals and hope that people are paying attention. So it just we just monitored open gates for walkways on number 9. There is a main thoroughfare to the rest of the golf course, and we opened and shut that gate at the right times based on when golfers were playing the hole. So it was a lot of work. The course is hilly too, so I don't know how many steps I would have gotten in a particular day, but it would have been a lot.
It's a beautiful course, but like you said, it is
It
hilly.
is very hilly.
Being in the presence of greatness, also like Tiger Woods, like a name any other star, really. What was that like?
Well, we did get pretty close to them, and I mean, I remember marking Woods's ball one time on the right-hand side of the fairway, the player's right-hand side of the fairway, and I remember I was right at his feet. I was holding a rope down, and I could hear him clearing his. He was having trouble, as he always does at Augusta, with his sinuses, and he was really having trouble with it, as a lot of players do. It is, they'll tell you down there, everywhere is the pollen capital of the world, but in particular down there, it's the pollen capital of the world. And players have real trouble with that when they get out there, because they're coming from all over the place. And I just remember hearing him breathe, and he was clearing his throat, and it didn't sound good. I was that close. And the main thing is you try to make yourself invisible, to be honest with you, and you don't say anything to them. At times, you might ask them, "Do you want me to clear chairs? Do you want me, you want me to pull ropes? Are you okay with them?" And they'll give you direction, and they're almost all super cordial and very nice and very appreciative of the volunteers at the tournament. Seeing golf that up close and personal is really good. I always, after watching the guys out there for a week, I always played better golf that next week, because I think you would pick up on their tempo and their pace, their stance. You couldn't mimic their swing speed, but just their how they went through their shot routine, and I think it bled off on you a little bit.
It seems like more eyes are on the Masters too. When I think golf, my mind instantly goes to the Masters.
Yeah,
tournament.
it's played on the same course all the time, and I think that's what gives it its aura. There's so much history out there, and people remember shots that were played from certain points on the golf course, and there's just so much tradition and history, and other championships have a hard time mimicking that because they happened on different golf courses. So I think that gives the Masters a lot of its mystique.
And then kind of getting away from the Masters tournament in itself and kind of moving to golf as a whole. Golf is really a gentleman's sport, but it's still very competitive. But I know as a former athlete in high school, I don't play at this level at all. But as a college student, it still gives me a way to blow off some steam after class or something and still be competitive with friends.
Well, I think similarly to some other sports, I think golf is a gentleman's game, and I think you learn really good fundamentals. I think there's a lot of takeaways from playing golf the way it was sort of intended to be played. I think one of the telling features of that is the etiquette of putting. There is a grace to that. It's almost similar to dancing or bullfighting, maybe. There's a grace to it. There's, marking your ball, getting out of the way, sometimes having to move your ball marker and not stepping in the other player's line, being conscious, self-aware that there are other people playing with you, and to be gracious and courteous to them. Don't draw any unnecessary attention to yourself. I mean, those are all things that you can apply in a lot of places outside of the golf course, but it may be on the golf course where you learn those things. And I think one of the best examples of that is if you watch the pros, even a lot of amateurs and even a lot of recreational golfers. I mean, after the round is over, they take their hat off. If they have a hat on, they take their hat off. They shake hands. They share that they enjoyed, the 18 holes or the 9 holes. And I think that is a visual demonstration of people, adhering to the golf etiquette, and I think that's again can be applied to life in general.
Definitely. And then you always hear these comments as well that golf is 90% mental and only 10% skill. What do you think of those comments?
Oh, I think that's right. I think for professional golfers, I think the skill part is probably higher. I think to the recreational golfer, that's probably about right. There's so many examples of players not managing their game very well and making critical mistakes. And some players are almost known for making critical mistakes at times. And I think Jack Nicklaus had a line that said, I just went out there and played my game. And he said, I kind of knew when the pressure was on that somebody would make a mistake. And so and he kind of played with that in mind. And if somebody's got to win, it might as well be me. And he had an obviously great track record of winning.
Absolutely. And kind of in the show, we
Yeah.
figured we'd end with a couple of fun segments you may or may not be familiar with. But one is called Tier Talk, and it goes honorable mention, Tier 3, Tier 2, and Tier 1. And today's subject is the best golfers of all time. So I'll go first, but my honorable mention is Rory McIlroy. You may not agree with that just because you've been around the game longer, but I remember watching the Masters last year and him hitting that shot out of the bunker. It might have been the Open, but him hitting a shot out of the bunker was incredible. And then Morikawa doing it immediately after him.
Yeah, that was a great battle.
Yeah. And my Tier 3, Arnold Palmer, as you've discussed a couple times in this. Really, he just sticks out because, he's a great golfer overall, but also I love his half and half iced teas. And
Yeah,
lemonades.
a lot of people like him.
Yeah.
He was the originator.
Yeah. And Tier 2, Jack Nicklaus, just for every reason you've said before. I don't think there's any debate, but Tier 1, I couldn't put him below Jack Nicklaus, but Tiger Woods is mine. When I think golf, I think Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a Tier Talk?
Well, I think one of the litmus tests of the greatest of all time, is did they win all four majors? And I think there's only been, Gary Player and Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus. I think the reason that's so important, sort of in the pantheon of who's the greatest, is that you kind of have to bring something different to each one of those majors. And a lot of players like Rory have won three. Palmer never won the U.S. or never won the PGA Championship, and that always grinded on him. He hated that. If you looked at a short period of time, I think Tiger was the greatest player to ever play the game. But I think you kind of have to look at it over a long period of time. I mean, Nicklaus won the Masters at 46. He did it in 1986, and that was just absolutely phenomenal. So I think Nicklaus over a long period of time, and he has more majors than Tiger does. Tiger's not going to be able to, it doesn't look like it, he's going to be able to break his major streak. Tiger is currently tied with Sam Snead with 82 PGA Tour victories. And I do think Woods will win another tournament. I just don't think it's going to be a major.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I hope he plays some in some other tournaments besides majors, but hard to say whether he will or not.
Do you think he makes the cut this weekend?
Well, it's going to be wet, and I honestly think wet hurts Woods out there. And what that means is his advantage he has with his length off the tee, if he's hitting it straight, the ball's not going to roll as far.
Sure.
And so, now they have sub-air systems out there under the green, so the greens will be dried out. They'll play maybe not 100% normal, but they'll have them pretty close. I honestly don't think he'll make the cut.
No.
No, I don't. You were talking about between the ears. He knows that course between the ears better than any other player out there. And it's hard to say how many strokes that's worth around, but it's worth strokes around. But then you have to say, well, he's got to walk the course, and he's got a terrible bad leg, and it's hilly.
Definitely.
I never like to bet against that guy.
Absolutely. It's hard. It's hard. And the last segment, I'm sure you're familiar with this one, rapid fire. It's just fun questions we like to ask. But your favorite golf memory?
My favorite golf memory would be my 4-year-old son being able to get his picture taken with Palmer.
Wow.
On the 9th tee box at Augusta National.
Wow.
We've got a black and white pic of it. It's framed. It's that's my favorite golf memory.
Wow.
I have other playing memories, but that would be my favorite golf memory. Yeah.
Wow. Favorite sport outside of golf?
Well, I grew up playing basketball, but I can't vote for that now. I would say my favorite sport outside of golf would be football.
Football.
Yeah.
Favorite golf club in your set?
Oh, my driver.
Your driver.
Yeah, I drive the ball well.
Best golfer in your family.
Well, it was me for a long time. I have a son, Ben, who's named after Ben Hogan. I have my son, Ben, who is pretty close to being a scratch golfer. He's really good.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really good.
And last one. Thank you again for your time, Russ.
Oh, you bet.
Give us your pick to win the Masters this year. My pick, it's a little different. I'm going off the wall a little bit. I'm going to say Max Homa wins the Masters.
That's a good choice. Yeah. I won't pick Max. My sentimental pick, of course, is Rory McIlroy. I just think the world of him. He's carried a heavy burden with the live golf stuff. He's sort of been the face, along with Tiger a little bit, with being the face of the PGA Tour. My gut pick is John Rahm.
Great pick.
Yeah, I think the Spanish players, I think John Rahm has got a death wish to win the Masters, just like Seve did and just like Sergio did. And my brain pick is Rahm. My sentimental pick would be McIlroy.
Great. Thank you again for your time,
You're
Russ.
very
It's
welcome,
been a
Jonah.
blast.
Yeah, it's been fun talking.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Pyped Podcast. Don't forget to head over to Instagram and follow the pod at Pyped_podcast, or follow my personal page at JNHall45. Be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to tune in next time for an all-new episode where we talk even more sports with even more great vibes.